I realized that quilters are not actually born, they're made. Free motion quilting is not a thing you arrive at in a moment. It's not a thing that's magical. It's definitely not a thing that only some are born with. No, it's something you learn and something that you achieve over time. When I first began machine quilting, I was always interested right from the outset at quilting absolutely free motion. So I began at my domestic sewing machine, which means that it was, sitting in front of me and I was moving my fabric under the needle. So entirely in control of every stitch. That is free motion quilting, but just working at a very small domestic machine and usually on smaller projects. It wasn't very long before I realized that I wanted to do more quilts and much faster, and so I invested in a used long arm. So still free motion quilting, still in control, but now I have the handlebars of a long arm machine like this one, and I'm doodling over the surface of my quilt. Entirely hand guided, that's free motion quilting also, but a little bit different style. Well, when I graduated to that new machine, even though I had been free motion quilting at my domestic sewing machine for some months and had completed quite a few quilts and was familiar with movements and shapes and making round circles and things like that, when I graduated to my long arm machine, it still felt different. So again, I was going through the process of being an early learner, being a beginner, and getting the feel for it. That was very good for me because it just highlighted the process of learning. So I had already experienced that at my domestic sewing machine. And let me tell you, that is a steep learning curve. Beginning to free motion quilt, every one of us feels like an absolute kindergartner. Those movements and controlling fabric like that is such an unfamiliar thing, and it always starts out ugly. It just does. And when I graduated to the long arm machine, it was kind of like rolling back time. It was like Walmart with a rollback. Starting again with, because it's a different motion. So starting again with getting the feel for that motion and getting the smoothness and getting the repetition and learning how to control now my handlebars instead of the fabric. But this, you guys, is good news. Everybody starts like a kindergartner. Every person who is learning free motion quilting absolutely starts out feeling like a kindergartner. So if that's where you are and that's what you're feeling like, know that this is normal. If it feels so weird to create circles, and if they come out more like squovels than like circles, know that that is normal. That is just the process of learning. I think that we can break down that learning process into three pretty recognizable stages. The clumsy stage, feel like a beginner, the control stage, getting better, and the flow stage, where we feel like we've mastered it. So let's talk about each of those and some of the characteristics and some of the things that you can do as you're working through those stages, one at a time. The clumsy stage, I bet you recognize. I know I do because I've been there. I spent a good deal of time there, and it does feel difficult as an adult to go back to that clumsy, inept, incompetent sort of feeling. But it is the process when you're learning something new. And by the way, even if you're not a machine quilter, this is true in all kinds of things in life that you're learning. You will feel incompetent and clumsy at them often at first. For me, video editing, frankly, still feels that way. So here you are. Welcome to my editing skills. But back to quilting. That clumsy stage, it is because it's new. The motions that you're using, well, let's think back to kindergarten again, if you can remember back that far. I know it's a ways for most of us. But the pencil that you're holding is new. The motions are new. That's not a thing that a small child typically has a good grasp of. So when they start writing their name first and forming letters first, it's a bit clumsy. It's a bit awkward. It's a bit stilted, and they're getting squovels too when they're trying to make round things. So when you begin quilting, it feels exactly like that. You're not used to moving layers of fabric under a machine needle, or you're not used to holding onto the handlebars of what is essentially a 50-pound pencil and guiding that smoothly. So you're literally getting the feel of it, and it feels clumsy. But there will come a time when you continue and when you practice and keep doing it, there will come a time that you start to feel in control of those materials. You start to feel more comfortable and more predictable. You can predictably form a round circle or a curve or a straight line as you're guiding your fabric under your sewing machine needle, or you can predictably guide your 50-pound quilting machine over your quilting surface, making smoother motions, making straighter lines, just in better control of your pencil. And then thirdly, you will come into a flow stage where it becomes almost second nature and it doesn't require much thought to do it at all. A lot of you comment from time to time. In my live show, which I call Live and Unscripted, I am usually quilting busily on a project and talking while I do it. And so many of you ask, how can you quilt and talk at the same time? This is the answer. I've done it so many times. I've done that same motion or that same exact quilting design even. So many times I've worked through the clumsy new stage. I've gotten into the control stage where I know what I'm doing, and I've moved into the I don't even have to think about it when I'm doing it stage. It's just automatic. If you think about other things in your life, you can recognize these same stages too. Maybe let's not go back as far as kindergarten this time. Maybe let's think about instead you're learning to manage perhaps a chef's knife and you're chopping an onion, and you've been watching some YouTube episodes on how to efficiently hold that onion and safely, and how to use the knife quickly and get consistent cuts in your onion. And the first time you do it, it takes forever, and you keep referring to the person who's teaching it, and you keep trying it again. But after you have chopped 10 onions, 20 onions, 100 times, you've used this month in and month out, all of a sudden you can do it without really thinking about it. And now perhaps your kids are sitting across the breakfast bar talking to you, and you're talking to them while you're cooking dinner and chopping an onion and using your chef's knife. Do you see that progression? It's exactly the same with free motion quilting. Whether you're working at your domestic sewing machine or a sit-down long arm or a long arm like my Stella here where you're driving with the handlebars, that progression is still the same. You start with it feeling new and awkward and clumsy. You move on to feeling more in control, more familiar, more at ease. And thirdly, you move into, I don't even have to think about it anymore. I can carry on a conversation while I'm doing it. That's the flow state. That's where we all want to get. I just want to encourage you today that this is possible for you too, because we all move through those same stages when we're learning a new skill like this. I want to really encourage you to recognize that you're on your own journey at your own pace through those 3 stages, and to not compare yourself to where other people are in those stages, because each person's journey is unique and individual. So if you're still somewhere between feeling clumsy and just mildly starting to feel comfortable, know that that is just right for you. I love, love, love hearing from students who have watched lots of these YouTube episodes or who are in some of my online courses. And they've taken their courage by both hands and they've dived in and started practicing on quilts. They've started loading projects on their long arm and getting at them and getting them quilted. And they do 1, and then they think, I'm staying committed, and they do 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 10, and all of a sudden they're on their way. So I love hearing from students that I found this momentum. I just began and I committed to keep on practicing, and my journey started moving forward, and I'm seeing my way through that learning curve. I'm now feeling comfortable and competent and in control, and I have hope that I will get to that flow state where I can do it without even thinking about it and carry on a conversation while I'm doing it. That's the process, and each student and each of you go through that process at your own pace. Well, depending on where you are in that process, you may be interested in my free motion quilting masterclass, in which I teach a whole bunch of different designs, right from step 1, the formation of the shapes, all the way through tips and tricks to get more comfortable and to be able to use it on more quilts. So there is a link for that below and also in the card above me. But know that your journey is at your own pace. So don't compare yourself to where others are, but rather look at your own progress. Look at something that you completed last month or 6 months ago or a year ago, and then look at something you've recently completed and see how much you've progressed. See how far you've moved along that journey. In the next episode, I'm going to get really practical and talk about some small adjustments and fixes that you can make at your long arm that make a big difference in the finished result of your quilt. So tune in for that episode.